Senator.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, you're a doctor, so you've got special doctor questions of the doctor. He does not particularly like it. He was asked this morning over on another channel about the give and take between the two of you. He had this to say.
Can I just ask about you and Rand Paul? Does your body tense up every time? And by body, you know what I mean.
Yeah. You know, Gail, I just don't want to get into that tit for tat with him. I just don't understand what the problem is with him. But, you know, well, I'm just going to do my job and he could do what he wants to do and we'll see what happens.
Well, Senator, he says he's just going to do his job. But that seems to be what you've got a problem with, how he's doing his job.
Well, if he was being interviewed by a journalist, they would have asked, did the NIH, did your specific division of the NIH give money to the Wuhan lab? That's incontrovertibly true. What he's arguing is he's parsing his words. He knows his group gave money, but he's saying, oh, it wasn't for juicing up these superviruses. We gave it for other research. It's sort of like the Planned Parenthood argument. Yes, we give taxpayer money to Planned Parenthood, but it's not for abortion. Dr. Fauci's arguing, yeah, we gave it, you know, the NIH and my group specifically gave it to the Wuhan lab, but they weren't supposed to be juicing up viruses.
The money is fungible, as you say on Capitol Hill.
But it's even worse than that. The Dr. Shi, the bat scientist that's the most famous one from the Wuhan Institute, when she published her papers, which scientists across the board are saying are gain of function, they were juicing up viruses, she gave credit to Dr. Fauci. She said the funding came from, we have this in black and white from a peer-reviewed journal, she said the funding came from Dr. Fauci's National Institute AID, NIAID. This is Dr. Fauci's baby for 40 years. She lists him in the credits. He can't escape this. He did the funding. And my other question is, China's a rich country. They're kicking our butt in so many places. Why would we be giving them money for their research? Can't they spend their own money on their own research?
Senator Paul, Dr. Fauci calls your exchange a tit for tat, and he said he doesn't know what your problem is. That's because he's been placed on a pedestal and no one thinks it's appropriate to question him. No one, it seems, except for you and a few others. Have you received the answers that you want? We saw in that clip you're asking him about using New York as a model, why you should be masked when you have already received the vaccine, and importantly, what you're talking about this morning, the origins of the coronavirus. He said to you directly, that's not true regarding his support of gain of function, when we know there's an editorial going back to 2011 that he has supported gain of function research. Have you received the answers you're looking for, Senator?
No, but we've sent inquiries. There's been freedom of information as well as inquiries from House oversight when it was under Republicans and now from our office, Ron Johnson, others. We're asking specifically for some NIH papers and the conclusions, because in those conclusions, we believe it will be unequivocal from a group of scientists that they will conclude that, yes, the Wuhan Institute was making these super viruses. Now, they're still going to argue they didn't fund it, but this is a really important argument. It's not a partisan argument. So when Dr. Fauci goes on these other channels and they laugh it up and yuck it up, but they never ask him, did you fund the Institute? See, he's trying to evade that he funded it at all. I asked him the general question. I didn't ask him whether he funded gain of function. I said, did the NIH fund the Wuhan lab? And he danced around it and answered a different question. But there is no question at all that the NIH funded this lab. Whether it was gain of function, there's many scientists, Dr. Ebright, Dr. Baltimore, many scientists out there. There were 200 scientists in the Cambridge Working Group that are worried about creating these super viruses in the lab and the possibility that they could get out. So this isn't just me. It's not partisan politics. Shouldn't be partisan at all. We should want to protect the public in case another virus like this could escape.
This is so crazy, though, because if this happened because of the NIH funding, and that came from Dr. Fauci, and then this spreads into a global pandemic, and now he's in charge of the response in the United States, the irony of that, what do you make of that?
Well, it's even worse than you make out. The person they appointed to investigate the lab from the WHO perspective is the guy who gave the money. So NIH gave the money to a group called EcoHealth. The head of EcoHealth, a guy named Desank, they got him to investigate whether Wuhan was doing anything inappropriate in their lab. But if they were, wouldn't he then be culpable? So doesn't he have a self-interest in smoothing things over? I'm not saying he did cover things up, but you wouldn't appoint someone who's in the line of supply chain of giving the money to them, because ultimately here's the rub. I don't know whether it came from the lab. Nobody knows whether it came from the lab, but who would be culpable? Dr. Fauci could be culpable for the entire pandemic. So could Dr. Dzank, and so could Dr. Shi. I'm not saying that happened. I don't know. But you wouldn't put the people who gave the money to the Wuhan lab in charge of the investigation. That looks like a cover-up.
No kidding. And it's curious that it seems like the only people asking about the origin of the coronavirus, which has killed tens of thousands of Americans, all seem to be Republicans, which is odd. You would think
and it shouldn't be that way.
No, absolutely
there should
not.
be bipartisan concern. There's 11 labs in the United States that are cooking up and creating super viruses. That's worrisome.
Just the term super virus is pretty scary. Senator, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.